Good day, everyone. For this discussion, we will deal with the chapter 3 that is all about the critical perspective in Philippine history. And we will focus on this chapter's topic 3, which is all about the controversies and conflicting views on the first cry of the revolution. To further understand our discussion, let us discuss first the historical background of this significant event. Next slide, please. The passing down of stories led to the discovery of the revolutionary group, Kataas-Taasang Kagalang-galangang Katipunan ng mga Anak ng Bayan, in August 19, 1896. Next slide. Teodoro Patiño and Apolonio de la Cruz, both Katipunan members, got into a misunderstanding that led into everything. There are claims that their dispute resulted from envy or jealousy. According to the allegations, Patiño and de la Cruz compete with one another to who will receive an increase in salary. De la Cruz had received a pay increase by that time, and because of that, Patiño had grown envious of it, which had fueled their misunderstanding. Because of that, Patiño visited his sister Honoraria to discuss about it. At that time, he also revealed information regarding the Katipunan, and that was where it all began. Honoraria Patiño lived in an orphanage managed by Sor Teresa de Jesus, who she also informed of the information her brother had shared with her. Following that, Sor Teresa persuaded Patiño to confess this to Father Gil Mariano, who is an Augustinian priest. Next slide. So Patiño confessed the information of the KKK, giving Spaniards the knowledge of the group as Father Gil also shared the details with his superiors. So as we know, Katipunan is a secret society. That is why after the discovery on August 19, 1896, the Spanish government viewed that as a threat and they began to hunt the suspected members of the Katipunan. They arrested the Katipuneros, and when Bonifacio learned about it, Grito de Balintawak happened. Next slide. So the historic Grito de Balintawak, or the first cry of the revolution, is the decision made by the Katipuneros to call for a revolt or a war against the Spaniards to gain their independence. Although the National Historic Commission of the Philippines declared in 1963 through their research that this event occurred on August 23, 1896 at Pugadlawen, Balintawak, Quezon City, the details of this historic event are still in dispute because of the conflicting information from various sources. Nevertheless, it is still important for us to understand the many viewpoints of those who were actually present when this event occurred. And for our discussion, we will deal with Guillermo Masankay's account about the first cry of the revolution. Next slide. So next slide please. So to further discuss the overview of Guillermo Masankay's account, may I call on Miss Dime to discuss about it.
Guillermo R. Masangkay was born in 1867 to 1963. One of the most prominent streets of Manila Santa Cruz Binondo area is a street called Masangkay, named after a prominent figure in the kataas-taasang kagalang-galangan na katipunan ng mga anak ng bayan or the KKK or Katipunan Movement. But more than that, he was also a good friend and confidant of Andres Bonifacio, the movement's founder and supremo. Guillermo Masangkay was a friend of and advisor of Andres Bonifacio, a Boston friend who joined that underground society when he was only 17. He was born on June 25, 1867 in Maysic, Tondo, Manila. His parents were Domingo Masangkay of Batangas and Victoria Rafael of Tansa, Cavite. He was the youngest of 4 children. Masangkay had no formal education, however, he had a strong intellectual drive. Thus, although he was only bankero or a boatman, he became fluent in English and deeply aware of political and social condition of this time. He was playing his trade when he heard about prominent young man in his neighborhood that he became friends with Bonifacio. As they got to know each other well, they found that they had the same patriotic aspiration. Briefly discuss the triangle method of recruiting KKK members. The Katipunan was a secret revolutionary society or anti-Spanish colonialism. The cartilla serves as a primer guiding principles of the members of Katipunan. The first method of recruiting members of the Katipunan was through triangle method. The Katipunan is underground society prospered through the use of secret codes and passwords to avoid Spaniards' captivity. To keep the whole organization from being exposed, Katipunan used the triangle method or hasik. It is a method of recruitment where a recruiter would ask the two persons to join. Only the recruiter cognizant the identity of both recruits while the recruits are not allowed or not aware of each other's identity. Their only contact is the one who was recruiting them. Thus, the organization is compressed into three-man units, with a direct command chain resulting to a very well-organized recruit supervision. In their final test, the recruit must underwent initiation and blood contact, then they must choose their own symbolic name to protect their identity. Recruit has been accepted, they will go through a bold compact to show commitment. August 26, 1896. It is when Guillermo Masangkay declared that the historic first rally of the Philippine Revolution of 1896 happened at the rustic barrio of Balintawak in the house of Apollo Samson. From 1908 until 1963, the official stance was the Christ Church on August 26 in Balintawak. The event that ushered in the Philippine Revolution against more than 300 years of Spanish occupation is as significant as it controversial. Sick of the oppression under foreign rule and craving for freedom and independence, Filipino revolutionaries under the leadership of Andres Bonifacio tore their cedulas or residence certificate as a sign of resistance. Apolonio Samson is the first place where some of 500 members of Katipunan met on August 22, 1896, was in the house and the yard of Apolonio Samson. To further discuss Masangkay's account during that time, may I call Miss Garrido to discuss the first part of the story.
August, August 26, 1896. At about 9 o'clock in the morning of August 26, 1896, the meeting was happened at Balintawak for the purpose to discuss when the uprising would take place. It was led by Andres Bonifacio as the president, Emilio Cito as the secretary, and the attendees at the meeting is Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Cinto, Enrique Pacheco, Pia Valenzuela, Teodoro Plata, Thomas Remudio, Abuelo de Rosario, delegates from Bulacan, Cabanatuan, and Cavite. Next slide. Highlight who is Plata Pantas in Valenzuela. Teodoro Plata, or alias Balani, is the Bonifacio's brother-in-law and married to his sister Espiridonia Pantas Bishop. Was the former member of La Liga Filipina and later on of the Katipunan, with the alias of Pungahan. Pio Valenzuela. He was a member of La Liga Filipina and when it was time to join the Katipunan. The three of them was the objectors of the early revolutions. For the reason that Filipinos will be surprised and will not have enough preparation for the said revolution. When the opposition happened, Bonifacio left the session hall to discuss what happened next. May I, may I call on Harold?
Thank you, Miss Garrido. Now let us know what happened in Cavite meeting. There are two important and major happened in 1872, which is the 1872 Cavite Mutiny and the execution of the three secular priests. Before I go to start, let us know what is mutiny. Mutiny it comes from an old word mutin, which means revolt. Mutiny is a form of rebellion against the authority, especially by soldiers or sailors against their officers. Now let's go on to the top. Cavite Mutiny. The Cavite Mutiny of 1872 was an uprising of military personnel of Fort San Felipe, the Spanish arsenal in Cavite, which is on Philippine on January 20, 1872. There are 200 soldiers and laborers shows up in the belief that it would elevate to a national uprising. The mutiny was unsuccessful and government soldier was executed, many of them, and began to crack down on developing nationalist government. Before we discuss how the mutiny was unsuccessful, let us know first who is Gombursa. Who is Gombursa? Gombursa is the three Filipino Catholic priests, which is Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora, were executed by the Spaniards. They were tagged as mastermind of the Cavite Mutiny and charged with treason and sedition. Now let's go on to why the mutiny was unsuccessful. The 1872 was very significant event that happened because there is no 1896 Philippine Revolution if there is no 1872 Cavite Mutiny. Maynila celebrated a feast of the Virgin of Loreto. The feast celebrated with the usual fireworks display. Two people in Cavite mistook the fireworks as a sign for the attack. The Sergeant La Madrid led the 200 men by attacking Spanish officer at sight and seized the arsenal. So, during the revolution, Caviteños was expecting that Manileños will help them. There, here, here comes in where the mutiny was unsuccessful. The revolution was easily crushed as a result. Leaders of the plot was killed and the three priests was sentenced to be executed. The three priests was executed on February 17, 1872 by the Spaniard in Bagong Bayan, Philippines in public. So this scene was very sensitive and the young Jose Rizal see how saw how the three priests was executed. Well, let us now go to how Rizal exiled in Dapitan in July 1872. After being implicated in nascent rebellion through his shared lottery winnings, he was able to procure a parcel of land, the shore of Talisay in March 1983. During the exile, he was a farmer, entrepreneur, educator, inventor, painter, and more. And most importantly, a practicing physician. On August 19, 1896, the existence of KKK was revealed to the Spanish government. And on August 25, 1896, the uprising started and even without concrete evidence, Rizal was accused as the leader of the uprising organization. The existence of KKK and revolution were used by the priors to execute Rizal. Also, the idea of revolution that Rizal wrote on his novel became one of the reasons why he was executed on December 30, 1896. The death of Jose Rizal was the start of the real battle of the Filipino against the Spaniard. The death intensified the hate feelings of the Filipinos against the Spaniard. KKK continued their struggle against the Spaniard and So on the colonial government in the Philippines was near to its end. Upon convincing the people to start the uprising, Bonifacio, together with fellow Filipinos, they did something that is still remembered up until now. Now, may I call Miss Human to discuss?
Batang tibay, tibay swerte ko sa buhay. So, Bonifacio then asked the people to give a pledge that they were to revolt. He told them that the sign of slavery of the Filipinos were the cedula tax charged each citizen. Bonifacio said, if it's true that you are ready to revolt, Bonifacio saved. I want to see to destroy your cedulas. It will be the sign that all of us have declared our severance from the Spaniards. With tears in their eyes, the people as one man pulled out their cedulas and tore them to pieces. If it was the beginning of the formal declaration of the separation from Spanish rule. With their cedulas with their cedulas destroyed, they could no longer go back to their homes because the Spaniards would persecute them if not for being katiponeros, for having no cedulas. And people who had no cedulas during those days were severely punished. So next slide. So what is a cedula? Upon payment of the community tax, a person or corporation receives a community tax certificate or cedula. A community tax is paid either where the individual resides or where the legal entity's major office is located. Um, Also, having a cedula in the Philippines is evidence of one's residence and citizenship in the nation where it was issued. And any person or citizen who is at least 18 years old or a legal entity should obtain a community tax certificate or CTC to identify themselves and their place of residence, which can be utilized in legal transaction. So next slide. Importance of a cedula. The cedula is one of the prerequisite for the majority of government transactions. It is also acceptable identification for people and businesses operating in the same municipality as where it was obtained, making it important for every citizen as that at that time. So, um, tearing of cedulas, the initial conflict between the Katipuneros and the civil guards was the term cry. So, originally alluded to the tearing up of community tax certificates in protest of their allegiance to Spain may likewise be the subject of their scream or cry. So, the Spaniards era, the cry came from to this situation. So, a little bit of trivia about the importance of cedula before compared to today. Um, a series of intense battles between Spanish muskets against Filipino bolo and and spears ensued signaling the beginning of the Philippine Revolution against the Spain. The cedula serves as a reminder of Spain's oppression of Filipinos during its 300-year rule when they were referred to as Indios. So upon tearing their cedulas and deciding that they will start the uprising, Bonifacio came back to Session Hall. To discuss the next part, may I call on Mr. Gavet.
Hello everyone. So I'm discussing the uh, Bonifacio return to the session. So when the people pledge was obtained by Bonifacio, Bonifacio returned to the session hall and informed the leaders of what took place outside. Uh, the people, the people outside, they want to revolt and they have destroyed the cedulas. Bonifacio want to start the uprising, or otherwise the people by hundreds will be shot. Uh, Before there was no alternative way that the board of directors, in spite of the protests of Plata, Pantas, and Valenzuela, uh, they voted for the revolution. And when this was decided, the people outside shouted. They shout in Tagalog is mabuhay ang Republika ng Pilipinas, or in English is long live the Philippine Republic. Uh, when that day, August 26, 1896, Bonifacio has appeared that day. He appeared that day. Um, Bonifacio is a bodeguero. What is bodeguero? Is a warehouseman, and he was earning 25 pesos per month. He was a cultured man. He always wear an open coat with black necktie. Open coat is a Americana or Americano suit. He always carried an umbrella, and the meeting that morning of August 26, 1896, Bonifacio took off his hat and was wearing only his shirt with collar and tie. They decided to start the uprising, and that called a celebration for everyone. Mr. De Los Santos will discuss the next part of Masangkay story for that day. May I call Mr. Lebron De Los Santos?
Also, in August 26, 1896, Masangkay was one of the in charge in that time of gathering at Balintawak, celebrating the decision of the Katipunan. At about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, while the gathering is ongoing, the guard, which is the Emilio Jacinto, Bonifacio, and other leaders, is watching for any form of approach of enemy, which is the Spaniards. After preparing the position of the leaders, Emilio Jacinto, Bonifacio, and other leaders are places their position to become aware from the Spaniards. And after that, the Spaniards begin the war, and they still begin the war. Next slide, please. To discuss the summary of the report, may I call David for the report. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. This short, long story short, summary. This is summary of Masangkay or Guillermo Masangkay. Masangkay was present in the meeting for the uprising that happened in the morning of August 26, 1896, at Apolonio Samson's house in Balintawak. Having said that, He is therefore present also during the first cry of revolution or unang sigaw, when people tore up their cedulas and during the Spanish civil guards attacked the Katipuneros, making his account relevant for this historic event. And these all our discussion, and thanks for listening. This is the end of our discussion from the perspective of Guillermo Masangkay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys.